those people that stood in Stand in the Parks, all them people who stood there with yellow boards, all them people who stood for liberty and freedom, where have you all gone? You've gone back to your life. You've gone back to everyone just accepting what the British regime want to put upon you. Nigel Farage is a liar. And so is Keir Starmer. Every single one of them are liars. The only people who will stand up for you is another English working class person. That's what you need to elect. Do we want to take more taxes off you? No. We don't want the current tax system. It needs to be removed. There are other ways of financing a nation, and it isn't taxing working people so they've got no money to put on the...
If I was to say make a guess, who do you think might turn out today?
Oh, goodness.
I've had to walk into the town. I don't know.
That's a great question.
There might well be some local Labour MPs in neighbouring constituencies, maybe, possibly.
That would have been my guess.
So you think Labour?
Maybe.
Labour, maybe.
Labour. We hope to see Labour.
I have a strange feeling that these people may be supported by Labour. Maybe I come to this conclusion based on how many times they referred to Labour during my afternoon in Frodsham. When MPs are elected, can they be effective from day one?
How soon could you make a difference?
Immediately is the answer. I can tell everyone now, my maiden speech will be on par with Cromwell, because I'm going to go in there and use parliamentary privilege to tell them people exactly who's responsible for what, who should be going to prison, what our law represents, and I will be telling them that the majority in that parliament have perjured their oaths, and that's a serious criminal offence under the common law. That's it. So as soon as I get in there, I will be making a speech under parliamentary privilege, pointing out who the criminals in that parliament are.
Belarus is the only other European country that shares our equal voting system. That seems a bit strange, doesn't it?
It does. Well, we've had first past the post, so in its current version now for about 130, 140. I think it was like 1880, something like that. And we are, we are very much alone in the developed world as well. I mean, in the OECD, only Canada and the United States also use first past the post. We're a cross-party and no-party organisation that advocates a change to a fairer voting system. If a party gets, for example, 5% of the votes, they should get about 5% of the seats.
Obviously, we're outside the Bears Paw. This is right in Frodsham. We've had lots of support from the locals bibbing. I've had people stopping me saying that they've got our leaflets and they're voting for us.
With reform being mentioned before, how much different are you to Farage?
Massively different. Nigel Farage's telephone number, mobile number is on my phone. I walked away from him a long time ago. He said he was going to don khakis and pick up a rifle. He walked away. Farage's job is to herd real patriots and corral them so we never get what we actually want, right? This is an attack on the English and the working class of the English. The Labour Party, Farage, etc. The Reform Party isn't what it should be. It's a pretense, it's a persona. And again, even Ben Habib, who I don't agree with entirely, has said, do not vote for Reform because you're voting for a uni party. But in effect, Ben is now setting up another uni party. The only real solution is self-determination and go back to being a Commonwealth. And the Commonwealth, and again, if people vote for me, you will get a speech in Parliament on par with Cromwell's. I will use parliamentary privilege to talk about what's going on in our communities and tell the Crown and Parliament exactly what's going on. I'll give you an example. People having their homes taken away, being evicted, council tax, all of that is unlawful in the way that they are doing it, right? Nigel Farage, he is an establishment person, he's part of the cabal, he's part of the ruling class structure. And what we're saying is the working class English, need to take back control.
The first thing to note is that we are not a political party telling you who to vote for specifically. We are here to try and make sure that your vote is worth it compared to other people's votes. We are Make Votes Matter. We're a cross-party campaign group campaigning for proportional representation, which just basically means that we won't want your vote to count just as much as anybody else's, no matter where you live, no matter who you vote for.
The English Constitution Party is a brand. That's the first thing, and the brand is England. The manifesto is the English Constitution, your rights, all of your rights going back over a millennia. And what we do is help you claim your rights. You need to vote for us and we will speak in Parliament. We do not have whips. So the most important thing is if you vote for any of the uni parties, and that includes Reform, if you're voting for a party that has a whip, that is unconstitutional and it interferes with your right to have your grievances heard in Parliament. So our job as members of Parliament, if I get elected, is to air your grievances. So the English Constitution Party are a constitutional party about taking your rights back and claiming your rights back, which the Acts of Settlement 1700 chapter 4 states that the laws of England are the birthright of the people thereof, right? So it's your heritage that we're talking about and claiming back from the cabal of the British political union and the uni party. They're about themselves, they're not about us. So that's what we really stand for.
So you're not a political party, you just want people to vote?
That's right, we want people to vote and we want to change.
So would you say it's fair to say about 60-70% of the public don't vote?
For local elections, that'd be right. I'd say about 30% a turnout rate. For national elections, it's more like 70%. And a lot of that is due to people feeling disillusioned with their vote. They don't feel like it really matters, like it makes a difference, especially if you live in, say, like a safe seat where it sort of seems inevitable that one party is going to win. Then that would, understandably, you'd feel like you didn't want to vote. It doesn't feel worth it. And that would change with changing the voting system to a more proportional voting system where no matter which constituency you're in, your vote makes a difference, counts as much as anybody else's to the outcome of the election. And we want that right for everybody.
There is a barrier under the current voting system, you know, towards new entrants. At the end of the day, was if you had a fairer voting system where, you know, if you knew you got a reasonable share of the vote, for example 5%, you get 5% of the 5%, you know, of the seats, then you'd be more incentivised to bring about creating a new party.
I've heard you mention English and British is two different things.
The English are a nation, an independent nation of 1100 years. It is now under the control of the British cabal and the British Union. People talk about the globalists. The seed of the globalists is the British Union. I am against all unions, political unions. So the USSR was a political union. And by the way, anyone who says stronger together, that is a Marxist term that comes from the USSR, right? And I often hear people, even conservatives, spouting that nonsense. So England is distinct as a nation. Britain is an island. And once people understand there is a difference, British 2011 census, they included for the first time ever English-only national identity, right? 32.4 million of us, English, put on that census that we were English-only national identity. It showed that the British were a minority, a controlling minority. And people need to understand that what they've actually done from that census was then paid £4.5 billion of our money to Mears Group, Clear Springs and Serco, and flooded the highest areas in England and Scotland, but England, with asylum seekers to give them British passports to bring up their level of support. And that's exactly what they've done. So what we're doing, again, you've had the rapes and torture of English children all over England. We're standing up against that. As if you elect me as an MP, what I would actually say in Parliament is there is a law that deals with this. It is called the Criminal Justice Act 1988, Section 134, torture. There are 4 things in that particular application of the law. One is acquiescence, the other is consent. The other one is an act or omission, right? All of those things are lined up against the people in authority in this country that allowed them rapes to continue. Here's the beauty of Section 6. Under indictment and conviction by a jury, not a public inquiry, a criminal jury, if they are indicted and found guilty by that jury, any member, anyone of part of the establishment, including Gordon Brown, by the way, the Prime Minister, who just happened to be Scottish, yeah, if they get a guilty, Section 6 says it's a mandatory life sentence, no discretion. That's what we're fighting for justice for them girls. And people need to understand that it was put in place in 1988 to protect us from the state and the state acquiescence to that type of behaviour.
Are you expecting any new people arriving today to do their own campaigning?
To do their own campaigning here? We would have thought so, because there's a by-election next week for a new MP, so we hope to see lots of people out encouraging people to vote.
Do these people vote for anybody? A question you might be wondering.
We're from a bunch of different political parties, and we work together to make sure that your vote counts.
Draw from that what you will. A group of people voting for parties who appear to be following David Cameron's statement in Parliament. The biggest majority of us remember what David Cameron said. Cameron said, "We are all in it together."
The English Constitution, it's not actually one document like in America, is it?
No, but we're 1100 years old. So what happened was the English left England because they was fed up with the cabal. They created English colonies, and then the British, 70 years after they was actually founded, attacked English colonies. And what you'll find is, if you read the history from the Declaration of Independence, they stood up and said, we want the same rights as an Englishman. Right? And that's what the war was about. Again, there's lots of different versions of it, but the true version, I only go to the archives. I only read what our ancestors wrote. I don't read what the British have put in a book, right? I actually read the archives, and the archives tell us that the British attacked our English that went to America. So once people understand that, we have got a series of documents. It's not just about the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta is very, very important, but prior to that you had the Charter of Liberties. There are various actions all the way up, Peasants' Revolt, for example, but all the way up to the Glorious Revolution. And the Glorious Revolution was what's known as a Convention Parliament. So if people have heard the expression European Convention of Human Rights, and they say how important it is because it came from the convention. They created those rights, and they are what's known as qualifiable. The English gave you rights from the Convention Parliament that are inviolable, can never be taken away, they are God-given rights. And there is a massive difference between the British and the English. The English have rights, the British have rules.
The issue of electoral reform does matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter whether it's a Conservative government with 44% of the vote, 56% of the seats, or a Labour government with 34% of the vote and 63% of the seats. At the end of the day, votes should match seats at the end of the day. And the voting system we've got is simply not normal. Only ourselves and Belarus are the only European countries that use the first past the post voting system in the OECD. So only us, the States, and Canada. 80% of democracies do use a system of proportional representation.
Under the Labour administration in 1997, Tony Blair introduced the Human Rights Act 1998. Did he claim that trumps common law?
Whatever his claims were, Tony Blair is was an executive member of the Fabian Society. Keir Starmer is a Fabian executive member. Sadiq Khan is an executive member. We arrested Sadiq Khan in London at a Fabian Society event. And people need to understand, for subverting the English Constitution. We was called racist. You're only doing that because he's a Muslim. I said, no, we're doing that because he's subverting the English Constitution as being a member of the Fabian Society, right? So the Fabian Society are committed Marxists. And again, there were things that the Blair Fabian government did, and they was almost entirely Fabians, just like they are now with Keir Starmer. They took us to war with Iraq on a lie, and they created various things and issues that people don't realise. For example, they created the Constitutional Reform Act of 2005, completely unlawful. Everything they've done to chip away, they are not allowed to take them rights, and they have done. And it is, and just to make sure I'm clear on this, the Conservative Party and Union Party, some of their members are members of the Fabian Society. The Liberal Democrats are members of the Fabian Society. The only group of people that were not members of, and they were honest, of the Fabian Society is Jeremy Corbyn. Now, I'm not saying I agree with his politics, right, because I don't, but at least he was honest and said, I'm a communist, whereas the others, they have an emblem which is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And it's a very serious emblem. It tells you the truth, that they have a persona of pretending to be someone they're not. That's why people like Clark and others in the Conservative Party are Marxist, but they're in the guise of a conservative. What we are, as a group of people, constitutionalists, what we are is what we say on the tin. That's why I say we're a brand, and the brand is England. Our manifesto is the English Constitution. It's your rights, and that is the job of a Member of Parliament, to protect your rights and the power, and you from the power of the state.
This campaign for electoral reform might sound like it's not at the forefront of people's minds. It's not sexy, it's not, a lot of people don't consider it a priority, but we would say that if you fix the voting system, if you fix the way we do politics, you can change the politics themselves. We can work out all of these issues around corruption and disillusionment and people not feeling heard. That would trickle down, and it also trickles down into what policies get passed. Countries with proportional representation statistically do better with, or pass more policies around welfare and national health and things like that really matter to people. So I'd want to encourage, if you think that electoral reform doesn't mean anything for your life as a regular voter, I would encourage that it really, really does. It would make a massive difference to the politics that affect you.
You must vote. The Marxists and communists, what they've done is demoralise the population. They use another group of people called useful idiots to tell people not to vote. And what you're doing is what the Marxists want. Right, so you need to vote. Even if you vote, I do not consent. Ashby versus White, 1703. But if I or one of us are standing in an election, which I am at Runcorn and Helsby, 1st of May 2025, vote for me. And I will promise you faithfully, I'll be the person up there using parliamentary privilege to point out who's done what and when, right? And they can threaten to kill me, they can do what they like, right? You're not going to stop the truth. And the only way you're going to get the truth in there is to vote someone in there who's going to tell the truth to the Crown and Parliament and the public. So, again, I'm on Twitter, English Exit. It's a new account. Every time we get above 10, 20,000 followers, they take the account down. That tells you they fear the English. And I just need as much support as possible.
From a personal point of view, I think the people have lost the trust in the government, in the parliaments, in the MPs and in the parties.
Absolutely.
What's your opinion about that?
Sorry?
What's your opinion about that?
Oh, 100%. That we have so few options that are forced upon us by first past the post. It really is sort of down to two, really, and that you feel you have to tactically vote for one even if they're not your preferred choice. And it's really so much, such a huge proportion of the country are therefore feeling locked out and disillusioned by that. And so a change to a more proportional system would just mean that everybody gets a chance to be heard.
I noticed your video on yourself. Where do people find your video from today and other events?
I've been banned on every platform. I've been banned on Facebook, I've been banned on Twitter, I've been banned on YouTube, I've been banned on the only place that we've survived. Again, I had followers on Gab. Everyone should understand what's just happened with them now. The British are removing and enforcing censorship.
BitChute is no longer available in England.
So BitChute, I was on BitChute, I was on Gab, etc. So Facebook, I had videos getting 1.5 million views, right? So when people understand, I am now on and you can listen to the support from people. So you've got to remember, we're now on Rumble. Rumble is the only group of people that are standing up against British censorship, and literally they're risking millions and millions and millions and billions in fines. Rumble is a platform for the people, right? And they haven't taken me down. I've got 8,000 subscribers on there. If you look at the other channels from England, you'll see that they've got a few hundred. There is a big following for us, and the British are the ones who censor us. So do not vote for the Uni Party. If you vote for the Uni Party, you're destroying England. Again, we're about rights. So England is a brand, and that is our brand. Our manifesto is the English Constitution. The British didn't want us to register with the Electoral Commission. I had to take them to court and threaten court action to get it up there.
The voting system is unfair and it needs to change.
All those people that stand in the parks, all them people who stood there with yellow boards, all them people who stood for liberty and freedom, where have you all gone? You've gone back to your life. You've gone back to everyone just accepting what the British regime want to put upon you. We're English constitutionalists. We believe in liberty and freedom, and we're standing up for you. Let me tell you something. There's one person that hasn't got a voice in this country at the moment, and that's the working class. English! And let me tell you something now. Everyone has to understand this. Lucy Letby is a product of the system. The system itself has put her in there. She stood up against the system and stood up for babies and kids, and the system has put her in prison. And you've all been lied to by the system, by the British Uni Party. Nigel Farage is a liar, and so is Keir Starmer. Every single one of them are liars. The only people who will stand up for you is another English working class person. That's what you need to elect. Do we want to take more taxes off you? No. We don't want the current tax system. It needs to be removed. There are other ways of financing a nation, and it isn't taxing working people so they've got no money to put on the table with food. That's it, people. We've come out here, there's a lot of support from us, we get a lot of people bibbing us, they love England, it's time to vote for England and self-determination of a nation and its people. Push them back, get rid of the cabal. And the only way to do it is to vote for a Constitution Party, the English Constitution Party, and in Runcorn and Helsby, that's Graham Moore. That's it, thank you. And now we're going for a beer.
What about mainstream media?
So really importantly, mainstream media are part of the cabal, right? And the problem is that the alternative media are now parroting the same conspiracies of the mainstream media. So in other words, they're continuing and allowing the censorship of alternative views. So for example, this channel, and you I'm speaking to now, many others, Andy the Gabby Cabby, LSB Productions, many of the other, what I describe as real, including your channel, alternative media, they are the people that present alternative views. There's no point in calling yourself alternative media if there's a massive group of people with an alternative view that the mainstream media disagrees with and therefore censors, and then the alternative media, or so-called, are doing the same thing. So again, I'm grateful for your channel, I'm grateful for Andy the Gabby Cabby, Sean Atwood is another one, 2.5 million subscribers, and he absolutely got it. And by the way, Sean Atwood actually lives just up the road from this constituency. So it's in Widnes. So again, people understand we're all working people. One of the things about alternative media, real alternative media, presenting alternative views, is we're not media trained, right? We're working people that can see what's going on, and we're actually out there saying this is what they're doing. You should be trusting channels like this and the others I've mentioned because they're presenting the alternative views.
It's not soap opera either, is it? Like Coronation Street.
No, so again, it's funny you should say that. I spoke to a Scouse lady about 15 minutes ago, and I asked her, what do you think as a Scouser of Keir Starmer saying I fucking hate Liverpool? And she said, it made me angry. She said, but really he just hates England. And I said, he hates working class people, right? That's what you've got to look at. Our diversity comes from the slight dialect changes. I'll give you an example in Lancashire, which I love. You know, you turn around and you say, stop mothering me, right? And everyone laughs because I pick up their little bits of lingo, right? The same as when people come to London, they'll say things that, someone spoke to me the other day who comes from the north of England, and I said, you actually sounded like a Cockney, right? So we was just laughing, but that's our diversity. So again, with reference to Liverpool and what Keir Starmer said about Liverpool and the people, they're attacking working class people. It's non-stop. So it's fairly obvious, if you get someone who is real working class, not part of the political system and is actually standing up for you, you should be voting for them, right? And again, we're about a brand. The brand is England, and the manifesto are your English constitution rights. That means freedom of expression, freedom of speech, the freedom to be you, right, as an individual, not someone who is controlled by the state. That doesn't mean to say we haven't got laws. Of course we got laws. But you have got the maximum amount of freedom under the English constitution anywhere in the world, or did have, until the British system got control of you. So that's the main thing that I want to say to people. But again, alternative media is really important, that you present alternative views. And the alternative view from us as the English Constitution Society and the English Constitution Party is self-determination.
Well, I've got one question for Keir Starmer, one of many. But the first question I would like to ask him when I saw him might be a wasted one, but it would be this. Keir Starmer, who do you think you are?
I agree. I agree entirely. The man's a liar. He stabbed the working class in the back. He's took our pensions. He's took our disability rights. If you go and look at our website, we stand for retirees, disabled people, all the people who haven't got a voice. And this is really important for people to understand. If you're 95 and you've got a ballot in your hand, that ballot is just as valid and powerful now, today, as it is when you was 18 years old, right? It hasn't lost its power. You may have lost your strength, may have lost your health, but that vote is just as powerful now as a 95-year-old as when you was 18 years old.
Guinness, another English tradition.